Hey there, Meeple peoples. This is Mark from the Meeple Society. And together with Jess, Katy, and Greg, we're happy you decided to roll into this top five with us today. We're talking about some of the great equalizers, and especially if you spend any time at BGG whatsoever, one of the most cruelly divisive components available in modern board games, short of Kickstarter plastic. By that, I mean dice. Dice are wonderful because they introduce an element of randomness and instability that is otherwise unavailable, giving a true feeling of that instability or that randomness and chance to games that are otherwise may not have it. All your carefully coordinated plans and moves and tactics might blow up in your face because the math rocks intervened. And that mouth breather on the far side of the table, the one that you have to consistently remind not to drool on his cards, he may have just overtook your seemingly insurmountable lead because he got a Vegas smile on his last roll. They let you know that even your most perfectly laid plans can go belly up without warning, kind of like real life. That's why they can also be fairly divisive. People throw their hands up about dice eliminating a game's player agency and frothing that it's not fair that I worked so hard just to have a stupid rock with pips screw me over, and that sort of unpredictability is just not fun, and I swear those dice are laughing at me, Mom. Kind of like all the people that worked so hard to kill all the tension of saving throws by making them toothless. Some people would feel better if the designers just said, we just kind of threw that in as an extraneous mechanic, so just feel free to change the face to whatever the heck you want to, because there are no winners when people whine on the internet. I doubt that'll be any of us. It definitely won't be me, because nothing draws me into a game like chucking the bones. So with all that said, here is the Meeple Society's top 5 games with dice mechanics.
Okay, but before we start, I just want to say, we played a dice last night, a dice last night? We played a dice last night.
Dice. Yeah,
It's
a game.
Night. We played a game last night where it was your basic roll and move, and getting screwed over by the dice is holy crap. I got screwed by the dice so badly last night. Okay, but I regress. So,
it's not in your top 5?
No. No, it is not. Number one, my top 5 was written a week ago, and we just played that for the first time last night. So, cute little game, but nonetheless. Anyway, my number 5. My number 5 is a game by Smirk and Dagger. It is called The Spill. Fairly new, just published last year, 2022. This is a fully cooperative game where players are working together to contain and clean up an oil spill while trying to save the surrounding sea life. The dice mechanic in this game takes the form of the oil spill itself. The center of the board is an orange dice tower that is actually comprised to be the oil rig. It spits out dice on the start of everybody's turn. You drop so many dice into it based on your threat level, normal for a cooperative game, and it spits dice into one of 4 quadrants. Then you carefully take those dice out of that quadrant and put them onto the board. So on your turn, you're traveling around the board, cleaning up the spill, hopefully rescuing sea life before it gets covered in the oil, because that's bad. Mm-hmm. I love the game. It's a unique way of using the dice where the dice actually means something. Mm-hmm. The whole goal of the game is to remove the oil, either remove it from the game altogether, to push it back so it's quote unquote back into the bag. Just a different way of using it. I really enjoy this one. Mm-hmm. It's a one of my favorite cooperatives right now.
No, I was going to say, this is one we've looked at before, and I thought it looked really cool.
We have played this 3 times so far.
And we haven't won it yet.
We have not won it yet.
Because we keep
it's
all joining up in one area.
Well, and sometimes you have to, but you're not supposed to. You're supposed to stay around the outside of the board, because the whole concept is you've got little ships moving along one of the 20. There's only 24 spots on the board. You're just going in a big circle, one way or the other. But somehow everybody always ends up all on one side of the board.
I stay in my area.
Well,
and I
but
take care of my
sometimes you
area.
can't. You have to drift
Yes,
over
you
to the other
can.
lane to save an animal, or to,
And then your area goes down.
and then your area goes down.
Jeez.
That's why you stay in your lane.
Saving animals causes problems.
Yes. Yes, it does.
But the game ends if you lose too many animals. So there's
Mm-hmm.
6 different kinds of animals. If you lose any 3 of one kind, game is immediately over. If you lose 1 of each kind, game is immediately over. So you gotta save the animals. That's kind of the whole point of the game.
Yeah,
So,
but you also get, or you can get the oil out of the way too.
You got to get the oil out of the way too. So, and sometimes that requires going out of your quadrant. And anyway, we're never going to agree on this one. So
Nope.
give up.
We haven't played a game yet that everybody stayed in their own quadrant. It's always somebody always leaves their quadrant every game, and she's like 2 or 3 quadrants away from her area, and her area always goes.
Well, I
to
can
pot.
never be 3 quadrants away because there's only 4 quadrants on the board and it's a big circle. I'm just saying.
2 quadrants away.
But that's my number 5,
But I never move.
the spill.
Greg is all like, "You take care of that side yourself. I've got this."
Exactly. I want to play this game that way once.
Okay.
But she can't do it.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
I'll remember that.
So, my number 5 is King of Tokyo. This is from Yellow Games. If you've been in the hobby long enough, surely you've played King of Tokyo.
Well,
but
but
this is
some
all
people
about
haven't.
being a monster and trying to take over Tokyo. It's got a sister that's called King of New York, and it's pretty much the same thing with a few differences in it, though. But I've not played that one. I've played King of Tokyo and King of Tokyo Black.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of prefer King of Tokyo Black a little bit more because there's extra powers that you get.
Yeah, there's some extra powers, but I don't know. I
But
like just the base
each turn.
raw
I mean,
game.
you're rolling dice to either attack the monster that's in Tokyo or collect numbers to get points, or get energy to be able to buy cards to get special powers to do other things. There's that fine line is like, if you're in Tokyo, how long do you stay in Tokyo before you have to get out because you're going to die? But as long as you're in Tokyo, you're gaining a point of victory. A point of victory.
A point of victory.
A victory point each time you're in there, and the person who gets to 20 points wins.
Yeah.
Or the last man standing basically wins.
Yeah.
And that's
And
how
that's-
most of them have been.
We've played this 6. The last time we played it was 6-player,
Mm-hmm.
and where you got 2 people in Tokyo, not just one.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely changed up the game a little bit because you're attacking both of them, but yet at the same time they're both attacking everybody else. So
Yeah, because
was,
one person's rolling, they're attacking the monster in Tokyo, but when Tokyo attacks everybody and says they're attacking everybody. So if
outside of Tokyo.
the monster in Tokyo does 5 points of damage, everybody takes 5 points of damage. So.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
if you stay in Tokyo, and that's the big thing, if you stay in Tokyo, you can't heal.
Right.
You're too busy destroying things to heal. So if you keep taking damage, there's no way to heal up unless you decide to leave Tokyo. You can't voluntarily leave Tokyo until somebody does damage to you. So, but if you leave Tokyo, you no longer get that victory point for staying in Tokyo. So yeah, it's a very fine line. I usually go after the points. This last time I think I died with 0 points. So you see how well that worked for me.
But yeah, that's number 5, King of Tokyo.
And spot number 5 on my list could have actually been taken by like 3 or 4 different games, to be honest. In fact, I probably could have gone even full bore, like top 10, and slot 5 through 10 would have been almost interchangeable. Because there are so many good games that do interesting things with dice. But for number 5, I opted for one of my favorite games with die icon resolution, meaning that your available actions on your turn are designated by your die rolls. And for that one, I chose one of my favorite co-ops that just pops off the table. And that is the 2018 game by Nauvoo Games, The Reckoners. In The Reckoners, based on the Brandon Sanderson young adult fantasy novels, you are in a world where a mysterious burst in the sky gave people extraordinary powers and at the same time corrupted them and turned them evil. You're part of a crack squad called The Reckoners, who are trying to save New Chicago from these superpowered epics and their leader, the all-powerful epic named Steelheart. To do that, you'll be using your characters, which have asymmetrical skills and abilities, to move around the city And your dice, which have action icons to attack epics, research epics, contain them, attack their minions, earn money, acquire plan tokens. They can also be used to remove barricades, to move, and to activate special equipment powers. Along the way, you'll be researching Steelheart, because as long as he's around, his epics are getting more powerful and make the game much harder to win. The game feels unique to me in that all the players roll simultaneously, each player choosing which dice to hold and which to re-roll, kind of the Yahtzee mechanic. Then the players act, again, simultaneously. I mean, obviously, it's better to have some kind of plan in place, as we've found out to our regret. And then all the epics, including Steelheart, have their go. Simultaneous action is actually kind of weird with dice games, but I actually find that I enjoy it quite a bit in the Reckoners. The game has a real lush quality. Everything from the game trays to the artwork to the miniatures, everything really pops off the table. The dice are chunky and translucent while still being color-coded to the characters. And there's enough mitigation with your plan tokens to allow you to make actions even if you don't roll them specifically. Gameplay is really smooth, and while it's generally pretty easy to learn, let me tell you, the game is definitely not a pushover.
No.
So that is my number 5, The Reckoners.
This is one of my favorites.
Yeah, this is when we had a 6-player game of it.
We did a 6-player video on this one.
Me and Katie is the only one
mackerel.
that ever played it, and everybody else
really
was all
liked
new.
it, though.
And
They caught it quickly.
after we got done with our first round, one of the people says, "Oh, I thought you said this was a hard game." I was like, "Look,
Just wait.
the villains get to go now," and they go, "What?"
That came up later on. In
I
the
was like,
thing.
"Well, there's how it goes.
Remember what you said?
Yeah, I was like, remember all 3 of those people you just took out, right? Yeah, now 3 people, 3 more come in. And they go, what? Wait, huh? And they attack? No.
It was great. It was a good game.
No, we're definitely very glad that you got us turned on to this.
Yeah.
This is one of our favorites too.
You guys played the expansion too, right?
Yes, and lost horribly.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so yeah. That was the one we did on video, because Greg's brilliant idea was to go up against Limelight on video.
And it's the hardest one to hit.
Holy mackerel.
Yep.
Yeah.
Smashed us.
Yep.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Jess.
My number 5 was also The Reckoners.
Well, that makes it easy.
Yep.
So do you have anything to add, or?
Nope.
Nope. And,
He covered it.
yay.
All right.
Probably better than I would.
Okay.
There we go. All right, the quick and easy.
Alrighty.
So my number 4 is Dinosaur World from Pandasaurus Games.
Oh, I didn't even think about the dinosaur games. Okay.
Yep. From what I understand, Dinosaur World is the sequel to Dinosaur Island. You hire workers, build your park, acquire DNA, create dinosaurs, and conduct tours with your little Jeep Meeples. Jeeples. In order to create dinosaurs, you've got to have specific types and amounts of DNA. You collect DNA by rolling dice, chunky, translucent, amber dice with colorful symbols. The dice are awesome.
Yes.
And certain events can require you to roll the threat dice to see if any accidents happen along the way. So each dinosaur type, there's herbivores, small carnivores, and large carnivores. They have their own die. And when you roll it, you're going to see how many visitors they've eaten. I believe certain tiles may help manipulate dice or help you get DNA automatically.
I think so, yeah.
This one takes up quite a bit of space on the table, but I actually like Dinosaur World just as it is a little bit better than Dinosaur Island.
Yes.
I think there's more to it. Having the tour Jeep thing is actually kind of really cool. It's a nice add-on. And you can tell, no pun intended, but it has kind of the same DNA as Dinosaur World. Everything kind of all fits together.
Yeah.
We have the Kickstarter version, so I don't know how much that's going to vary from the retail, but no, the dice have their icons on it. The DNA dice have all the different types of DNA that you could possibly roll. Then you've got the threat dice. Now that the carnivore's dice have way more skull and crossbones than say the herbivore. So I mean, it's an escalating situation.
You feel like the herbivores, if it kills somebody, it just stepped on them.
That most of them could just step on them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, this is one because we did it through pub people, I kind of went through all of our games that had dice mechanics in it, and for some reason this one did not come up. I completely forgot about the dice.
Yeah, no, I like this
yeah,
one. I like the physically building your park out.
I just don't remember. I don't think Dinosaur World was even on our list, but yeah, I totally forgot about that. Good pick.
All right, good pick, yeah.
Yay.
All right, number 4. Sometimes luck is more than just rolling dice. It's finding the game in the first place. And that's what happened with this game for us. We actually happened to see it at a buy one, get one sale at our local game shop. And like you, many of you, we'd never even heard of it. And so we decided to take a chance on it. And now it's found its way into being one of my favorite one-off co-ops. And that is Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time. Proud owner of one of the best game names ever. You're a member of a team sent here to help retrieve and return historical artifacts that the namesake Professor Evil has stolen from throughout history with the help of his insidious time machine and held it in his mansion. But to get them back before he moves them to where you'll never get them back, you have to turn off all the traps that he's placed on them and unlock the doors leading to them. Each turn you'll get 3 actions to move from room to room, disarm a trap, unlock and open a door, or liberate a treasure, as long as all the traps that are on that treasure have been disarmed. You get to draw 2 cards and play one, which will give you a special power that particular round. After each player's turn, however, the professor will get his turn, and this is predicated by a roll of 3 dice. And this is where I really love the dice mechanic in this, even though it never works out for us.
No.
You have a color dice, a movement die, and a time die. The movement die indicates whether he moves 1, 2, or 3 rooms, locking doors and turning back the security whenever he does, or stays where he is and passes time, meaning that one of your 3 artifacts has less time for you to get to it, or if he decides just to go through a secret entrance and go to a room with an artifact, which if you're in that room trying to grab the artifact, that's a bad thing. The color dice indicates which direction he goes when he's moving, based on the colored doormats in the room, or if he's staying put, which colored artifact you actually take the time off of. And the time die indicates whether the professor marker on the big clock in the middle of the table moves forward 5 or 10 minutes. If he ever catches up to one of the colored markers on that clock, then that treasure is lost forever. Now, one may argue that the dice are not the highlight mechanism of this game, and I would tend to agree, but I would also argue back that this game would absolutely not be the same without the die rolling.
No.
Agreed.
Now, is it the most innovative use of dice around? Probably not in this day and age, but it is a smooth, fluid system that ratchets up the tension and makes you breathlessly wait on the edge of your seat to see what Professor Evil is going to do this turn. Usually with all the accompanying groans of dismay and wry laughs when he blows up all your cleverly laid plans with one single roll of the dice. Lots of people haven't heard of this game, and let me say, in my mind, that's Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time is a criminally underrated game.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite co-ops.
This is a brilliant co-op.
Yeah, this is what, when you suggested it the first time we'd ever heard of it, was like going, okay.
I liked the concept. I loved the theme behind it. So we ended up doing a video on this one, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did do a video on this one.
Yes, we lost it horribly.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
We kept kept predicting what color not to roll. We always did roll it.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't roll that. Oh, crap. So, yeah, no, this one, I agree with you, criminally underrated.
Oh, yeah.
This is a good one.
And like I said, the first time I heard this, I was like going, how different could it be? But it's actually a lot of
very
fun.
different. There's a lot going on.
The theme is actually pretty good because there's the stress of trying to get from room to room to get to the things you need,
get the treasures you
not
have
get
to
caught
have.
and to keep it open. It's there.
Yeah, definitely. And then you're like, oh, well, okay, you can do this after I get finished with my turn, as long as the professor doesn't do this. And then you roll and it's like, yeah, the professor did exactly what we needed him not to do.
Yep.
Scrap that plan. Yep. Let's start over.
So there's a whole lot of thinking on your feet at this game, because when it comes to your turn, everything may have changed and you may have to go sideways.
A lot of pivoting.
But that is
Nice.
my number 4, Professor Evil and the Citadel of Time.
Awesome.
All right.
So mine number 4 is a game we just got this year. They had said it was a good one. This is Fantastic
Oh.
Factories.
Mm.
This is another one. This is one that it's the dice mechanism that I like. You have dice rolled, but there are a way to manipulate the outcome of that dice and how to use it, because you're using the dice to be able to get resources, to buy cards, to build buildings, to put them into you that are going to allow you to manipulate the dice some more, or to do actions with the dice that
okay.
you have.
I was drawing
It's
a
just,
total blank.
I love those types of games that the dice itself is going to allow you to do the action that it says on it.
Yeah.
Like this card, it needs to have 6s and 4s, and there's a card
Okay.
over here that allows you to change a 1 to a 6. So you're going to put a dice over there to make that a 6 to be able to play it on this card.
Yep.
I love those types of games, and this one's got a few expansions with it, which
Yes.
we haven't played yet
We have
though.
not.
But we do. We've enjoyed the gameplay
I
we've had
remember,
of this.
Yeah, I remember enjoying it a lot, but like I said, I, for the life of me, could not think of where the dice were in this one. But now that you explained it, I remember.
So that's my number 4, Fantastic Factories.
Woo.
All right. Yeah, we'll have to get that one back out again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
Okay.
good.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
I've seen this one. I've not actually.
It kind of, I mean, it didn't fly under the radar. It was a popular game, but it wasn't one of those big grandiose games that catches your attention. It never grabbed me.
Yeah.
I don't remember how we even picked it
It's
up. We
not
must
a
have found
big
it on
box.
sale.
It's
Yeah.
not a really artsy looking game.
No.
It's
But it's a nice card play / dice play interchanging game. It's nice.
Working in a warehouse, I probably would have looked at that and just like done no.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see why you would. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
I mean,
understand.
But there are a lot of like factory games that I've taken a look at and been like, oh well, that's kind of cool, but it still gives me the hives. So
Yeah. it's a good game because I heard everybody constantly. I was seeing posts and people talking about how great it is. Like, well, it can't be that good. And then we found it. It was on sale, so I was like, yeah, let's pick it up.
Yeah.
And we played. It was like, huh.
Like I said, sometimes you don't want that big, grandiose game.
Yep.
I just want to play cards and roll some dice and be done with it. And this does exactly that.
Yeah. Okay, so on to number
All right.
3.
No,
Oh, no, you're
can I
number
do
4.
my number 4?
No, we do not want to hear about your number 4.
All right. Well, my number 4 is another cooperative game. My number 4 is Thanos Rising, Avengers Infinity War. This was put out by Lucky Duck Games in 2018. The way this one plays out, there is a center board in the middle of the table with Thanos, a statue of Thanos in the center, and Thanos moves around into one of 3 quadrants throughout the game based on a dice roll. We ended up putting this guy onto a Lazy Susan. This was the game that made me go out and buy a low-profile Lazy Susan because I got tired of trying to read the cards on the other side of the table when all I had to do was spin the Lazy Susan because it's a round board, and now I can read the cards right in front of me.
Yep.
So, and now we use that Lazy Susan for a couple of different games. It's actually kind of nice. But, so the way this one plays, everybody picks their team captain, and you get your team captain and your player board, and your player board gives you some sort of special ability. If you can miraculously roll like 6 of one symbol. I've never had it happen. Justin's had it happen once.
And forgot about it.
And missed it. Yeah. Because you're just not used to it happening. So throughout the game, you are trying to recruit other members of the Avengers. There are ships in the deck. There are other members of the different groups of Avengers. They lay them out in 4 different colors, and the colors all work together in different fashions that give you more dice. You start the game with just 4 dice to roll based on your team captain. And then you accumulate more dice as you are recruiting new members to the team. But to recruit them, you have to have specific die rolls. So this is one of those you get to roll 3 times, kind of Yahtzee style. You roll, pick up. No, you can roll as many times as you want. But you have to recruit at least one, or you have to save at least 1 die every roll. But you don't just save it and hope to place it later. You have to save it and put it onto one of the cards you're trying to recruit. So you spend that die immediately in hopes that the next roll is going to help you finish that. Meanwhile, Thanos is moving around, and whatever quadrant he ends up in, he's doing damage to everybody there, except of course his own villains. Plus, if you happen to have chosen that quadrant that round, he's doing damage to you and all of the people you've recruited. So this is another one we did a playthrough with, another video with Justin and Jacob, and we lost, didn't we? I don't think we won this one.
No.
But it's a good one. We've played this, oh gosh, I have written down 11 times. And we're probably 50-50 for win versus lose ratio. At 2-player, I don't feel like it's that hard, but man, those dice in the beginning they don't work in your benefit a lot. There are games where you will end up where literally one of us has ended up with 5 or 6 heroes on our side, and the other player has their captain. And that's it, because none of the dice work for you.
I think we've both had a game like that.
We've both had games like that.
Couldn't get anybody recruited, and the other player did.
So, or you do finally get one recruited, but now you've taken so much damage, you lose him almost instantly. You know, it's just, it can be frustrating, but at the same time, you've got to, you focus on getting those guys that give you extra dice right off the bat. And so, but yeah, the dice are very finicky, but yet they are the crust of the game in this one, because that does everything. It recruits, it damages, it heals, it does everything. So I really enjoy this one. We don't play it as often as I would like, but it is definitely a good cooperative dice chucking, totally luck driven game. All right,
Very
but that
cool.
is my number 4, Thanos Rising. My number 3. I've talked about a couple of times. It was in my top 5 games I really wanted to play we didn't have. Now we do. Matter of fact, we have 2 versions of it. My number 3 is On Tour. This was put out by BoardGameTables.com, which is now All Play.
Yep.
Back in 2019. We have the original version, which is just the United States, and I think the flip side is Europe. And now we have the new one, which is, I think, Paris and Rome or Paris and New York. It's city based instead of country based.
Right.
So the way this one runs, the dice, it comes with 2 chunky 10-sided dice. So this is essentially a roll and write. One person rolls the dice and it affects everybody at the table. Everybody plays off those same 2 dice for that round. So you're rolling the 2 10-siders, and whatever number combination comes up off of those 2 10-siders is the 2 numbers you have to write somewhere on your map. Each player board is a map, and I'll just stick with the United States. That map is covered with 50 different circles in different areas, different states. And your goal is to put numbers on your board in a cohesive pattern that you can eventually take and draw your line in ascending order. So you can go from 1 to 5 to 8 to 10 to 15, but you can't go from 15 to 13. Everything has to be in ascending order throughout your list, and whoever ends up making the largest or the longest path, the longest tour, wins the game. So you get to count all your marks. But making that work along with the cards, because each round there's also 3 cards out that tell you what regions you can go into. So there's 6 regions in the country, and the cards may say you have to place, it gives you 3 options. You have to place 2 numbers down. So if I roll a 73, I have to put a 7, or a 7 and a 3. I have to put a 73 and a 37. So I have to flip the numbers. So I have to choose those 2 numbers and the 3 region cards that are out. So my region cards may say I have to go to the southwest, to the southeast, and the northeast. So I have those 3 areas to pick from, and I have to put those numbers into one of those 3 areas, or 2 of those 3 areas. I have to pick 2 different cards. So trying to make your regions work with the numbers that are rolled all at the same time, it gets to be a little tricky. So, but it's a good one. I love the puzzle of trying to make it work, because you can duplicate numbers. I can have 2 37s together, and that's legal. but I can't go from 38 to 36 to 37, you know, so it has to be consecutive. So, no, I love it. This is one of my favorite roll and writes. Very puzzly.
It's maddening though when you're looking for a certain number and you finally get that certain number, but the card you need to play in the area you needed is not up now.
Not there anymore. Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
That's why it's a good one. So we haven't gotten to play the city-based one yet. Eventually, we'll get there. But definitely one of my favorites. But that is on tour.
All right.
Very cool.
My number 3 is the heaviest game I've got on this list, and that is Tikenu Obelisk of the Sun.
Yeah, that's a heavy one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I figured this one would hit your...
Yeah, I want because this is another, it's dice manipulation on how you're going to... Because the dice are out going around the obelisk, which is actually gets in your way some of the time, though, but it's a really cool component in the game because it turned with it.
This one was on my short list.
You're drafting dice and you're able to use them depending on whether they're in, depending on where they are at, and depending on where the shade from the obelisk is if these are dice you can take or those
whether
dice
they're cursed
you
or they're good.
Full part, and then you got places around the board that these dice that you've now drafted, you get to put in areas
that do different actions.
They do different actions that you need resources to do. So some of the dice you're drafting, you're turning it into resource of the color of the dice you're drafting and you get the amount that is on the dice of that resource that you can use in other areas. So it's one of those, you got to plan how you're doing it. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this dice to get these resources because now if I can get this dice, I can come over here and build this building. And hope that somebody does not take that dice you're wanting to go over there and build that building. Which happens quite a lot.
I would never do that to you.
Yeah, we've played this 6 times, and she probably has done it 12 times. Anyway.
I could say the same.
But this is really cool because you've got so many components because you're building statues, you're building that are going out that's going to get you points depending on one grid, because on the other part of that grid are columns that you're putting out, and you're going to get, when you place a column, you're going to get whatever's in that row.
Get bonuses based on the tiles out.
Right, and then when the statues score, it scores on how many columns you have in that row.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool how most of the board works together.
Everything is very much interlocking.
Yep. And then there's another one that you go to that you're building these tiles that help out this grid over here that's going to score different stuff for your... It just... it's really, really cool. I mean, you got places where you can take statues and build it in an area, so when somebody takes a dice from that, you're going to get something because they took a dice from the area you had a statue at.
Yeah.
It's just really, really cool.
Yeah. The way everything interplays and everything is connected.
Yep.
And how the dice are so versatile, because you can grab a white die, a light colored die from here and play it anywhere on the board, and it does different things. But yet you can't touch those dice that are off limits this round. You got to wait till the obelisk moves or the sun moves. Yep. Yeah, it's just very interesting.
Yeah, because there can be times that you're like, okay, this round coming up, we're going to get a bunch of whole new dice. I can do this and this as long as these dice come up, and not one of those dice show up. They're all. Nothing you can really use, so it's kind of around. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to take this dice for resources. I'm going to take that dice for resources. I'm going to take this dice. I'm going to play it down here to raise up my happiness to get a little bit farther up.
The interesting thing is the dice are different shades. Like I said, there's 3 different possibilities, and depending on how you take them off the obelisk, you have to put them onto your player board on the good or the bad. Okay, I didn't know if you were going to go to that portion.
It's a balance that you put it on, and if it's a dark dice, you put it on the dark side of it. And at the end of the round, you've got to see if your dice balance.
So you have to take some bad dice.
Right.
But yeah,
so
this
is going to tell you who's going to be first player in the next round, because if you're totally balanced, there's a track over there where your piece is going to move, whether you're like 3 over or 3 under. If you're under, you're going to start losing points, and then whoever's the closest to 0 is going to go first in that turn and everything. So you're trying to keep it balanced, and there's other tokens that you can get off the board to put in that area to help balance it out. So but yeah, so like I said, it's another dice manipulation game, which seems to be a theme with all my games here. So, yeah, this is a long one, and a brain burning one, but I really like this one, and this is a good one. Tikenu.
For my number 3, if you are thinking about dice in the first place, it's not a huge leap to lean heavily into role-playing games, since that's where multi-sided dice like your D8s, your D10s, your D20s finally first hit the mainstream. And as a role player, that's where my love of dice and their wonderful unpredictability first came about. So it's not surprising that the game that attempts to mesh the role-playing experience with dice manipulation would score high on my list. And while the entire role player system by Thunderworks is great, my number 3 goes specifically to Role Player Adventures. The game that took the relatively simple dice manipulation mechanic and just exploded it into a bona fide campaign adventure suite while giving you the old school RPG facade of a series of adventure modules. Role Player Adventure leads you to create a character and take them through a campaign series of prepared adventures with all the maps and adversaries and treasure you'd expect. Throughout it, you'll handle which areas of the map to move on to, how to handle events, puzzles, and encounters that you'll run into. But everything is really all about the dice rolling and the dice manipulation. Now, if you've played the base role player game or watched our video on it, the mechanics will come really easy. During combat or while undergoing skill checks, you'll have a player aid that shows how many dice, what color, and what number you'll need to have covered to pass a specific test. Using that knowledge, you'll create a limited dice pool. You'll be able to fatigue yourself in order to select a particular color that you need, or you can conserve that energy and just do a blind draw from the bag. Then you'll roll those dice and use cards to manipulate your numbers, your colors. There are cards to flip dice to the opposite side. There are cards and equipment that'll allow you to nudge up or down one, or allow you to re-roll them, or even change the dice color. In combat, if you can't complete the test in one round, then the enemies will attack you based on what slots are still open, and that'll cause your character to take damage. Now, admittedly, it took a little while for the dice manipulation puzzle of combat to grow on me, but part of that is largely I'm an old school role player. So when I see something packaged up like a D&D module, I fall into old habits. I'm like, yeah, we should be rolling a D20 to hit. The idea of using dice and fatigue cubes didn't really hit me the way, rolling a 1 and watching my character dissolve into a pile of goo does. So there was that. But not only has it grown on me, I've actually become pretty fond of the cooperative nature of the game, and I look forward to getting it to the table. I think that they just basically took the original role player game and they've expanded it to the point where this was a natural progression up, and I really like the way they did it.
Yeah, because everybody who's played role players like, oh, this would be cool if we could actually now use this in an actual dungeon and everything. And then they came out with this, and this was cool. And I think the best part of this game, okay, it is the dice is cool though, but I love the artwork in this game. That the adventures all look like old classic D&D dungeons modules.
Yes, exactly.
That is so cool. That's the one reason why we went and picked this up. I was like, oh my god, that looks so cool. I want to go back to that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, no, we've played a few adventures. We played through first.
Yeah, this is one I keep looking. It's like I really need to get this back on the table because I really liked playing it. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I like the fact that you can now take your role player characters if you want. I mean, it has pre-made generated characters, but you can take your role player character with there's a few modifications you got to do.
You've got to make some modifications. They're covered in the rule book.
Definitely
all right.
back out. Good pick.
My number 3, pretty colored dice make brain go burr.
Let me
Sagrada. So Sagrada had to make my list.
Well, yes.
It's kind of like the epitome. It's like the paramount of the dice mechanic. It's all it is dice, basically. So players roll these small, translucent, colorful die to try to meet color, pip number, and placement requirements to complete basically like stained glass windows made out of translucent little colored dice. And that's that's it. There's drafting. There's some tools and some some tools to maybe help you re-roll or to ignore
Placement
requirements. And there's secret in-game score goals. But I mean, it is a very straightforward game. I feel like, and the thing about it is, I think it just came out in like 2017, 2016.
I think it's like 16 or 17. So I
Something
remember
like that,
way back.
It just seems
a
like
while
it should
back
be
when
so
we
much
demoed
older.
it.
I don't know. It just seems like it's like already a classic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Game.
feels like it's already
This-
going to be. It's what they call an evergreen.
Yeah.
It is one of those. I don't
For
think it's
like
going
8 games,
anywhere.
yep.
Mhm.
And it's a
Yep, it's a
really
good one.
gorgeous looking game.
Yes.
Yes.
I just think
We played.
you
this
love
a
this
lot.
game. You absolutely love
Yes.
this game, and
Yes.
we have played this so much that I'm kind of done with
It's
it.
so easy to teach.
Yeah,
Like,
don't get
you
me wrong.
wanna-
If it comes out on the table, I'll play it though.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting for the Dungeon Crawl Sagrada to come out.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love this game.
Mhm.
Good pick.
No, absolutely.
Yay.
But
My number
look,
3.
be looking for that
Sagrada.
Sagrada scenario base.
Well,
Sagrada.
they're making a
Sagrada.
legacy of Ticket to Ride. Why not? Actually, aren't they making a legacy for this one?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I think
what I
they
thought
are.
I'd
Yeah, I
heard.
went
They
through
were doing
face- I went
something.
through a Kickstarter.
Sagrada. This time it's the floor.
You're tiling the floor.
No,
Oh wait, that's
Azul.
that's Azul.
That's
Yeah.
cool. Okay. Oh my goodness. All right.
Okay.
All right. So, my number 2, because rolling dice and passing blame is cheaper than therapy, is Champions of Midgard. Champions of Midgard is a worker placement game. But when you're gathering warriors or supplies, you're placing your meeples for the chance to go up against trolls, Drugar, and other creatures mostly from Norse mythology. Combat is handled with dice. Each die represents a warrior. So in the base game, there are 3 different types of warriors, so each warrior type has its own die color. It's the swordsmen, they have sword symbols. The spearmen have spear symbols, and the axemen have axe symbols. There are also shield symbols on select die for blocking the monster counterattacks, but I don't think the axemen have shields.
No.
I think they
I
are
don't
the
think so.
shields.
Nope.
Yeah.
Anyway, some of the expansions, I'll add different types of warriors and the colored dice that they're associated with. There's like the Valkyries, I think there's archers and the Dark Mountains one. I guess you also use dice not only for combat, but also for when you go hunting.
Yes.
So you can get some food, some meat to feed your clan.
That's when I usually roll shields.
Yeah, the one time you don't
Yeah,
want
when
to.
you don't
yeah.
want the shields.
And the trolls are the closest threat, so if you don't send out some warriors to dispatch the troll every turn, or you're defeated, you receive a blame token.
Yeah, or if you don't go, get a chance
don't
to
go
get
at all?
If you
you
don't
get
go
blamed.
because somebody around the table has already taken the troll spots.
Blame.
Yep.
You get blamed for being lazy because they beat you to it.
Yep.
Makes
But
total
then
sense.
you've got to expend a worker to go to the location to give you the first player marker, so you can be the first player to do it.
Uh-huh.
So you've
It's a balance.
essentially
Wasted a meeple.
wasted a turn because you've been browbeaten.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to decide if that blame's worth it.
That is my number 2,
Yep.
Champions of Midgard.
No, this
Yep.
is
It's a good pick as long as Valhalla's in
Yes.
the game.
The Valkyries
no,
are
agreed.
are wonderful.
Yeah.
This is still one of my favorites as far as worker placement, because so many worker placement games are just, okay, we're doing that and it's all tactical and I've put it there. But this one at least, has got that luck aspect where it's like, okay, I've made all these plans and now I'm going to send all my guys here. Oh, and they all died.
But with Valhalla, now you got to do something with them. So
Well, that's
Yep.
true, but
Their spirits come back to you.
See, there's something to also be said about I've made all these plans and now all my characters have just died, and then other people getting to sit there and go, ha ha, see, as opposed to oh well, now I get to do something with them. No, we get to laugh at your sad face.
Use your Enzor voice.
Your indoor voice.
All right, fine.
Okay.
Okay, so my number 2. When you think of lengthy campaign-style games, usually one of your main draws, aside from dice, is the ability to continue the game and upgrade the characters that you started with and watch them gain new powers and abilities and equipment throughout. Now, there are certainly more than a few dungeon crawler and adventure style games that have taken the idea of character advancement and experience through upgradable dice and ran with it, but few of them have done it with quite as much verve as my number 2, which is Madara, Unintentional Malum Act 1. Madara is a dungeon crawler campaign that unabashedly plops you into a JRPG, Final Fantasy-esque alternate world and lets you run roughshod with battles with hideous creatures and through vibrant colored dungeons with grotesque miniatures and plethoras of characters that will join your team. You get to handcraft your character from lowly, big-eyed, awestruck students to seasoned warriors through a narrative that is somewhere in the area of 90 hours. Maybe. It might be even longer than that. To be fair, where the game really shines is the ability to customize your characters with over 100 different disciplines and 150 different types of equipment, leading to some really unique choices when you want to advance them as they grow in power. But let's be honest here, we're here to talk about dice. And Madara does not disappoint here. Dice power and strength advances through a spectrum of colors. You may start out with white dice and then move on to different colored dice based on your equipment, based on your power level, based on your experience. And each of these, basically, as you go up, your numbers, your ability to roll higher goes up while your ability to roll lower goes down. Now, this is nothing special specifically for dungeon crawler games. You roll dice, you hit the monster. Many of these types of games either give you dice with straight numbers that you have to add together to hit a certain threshold, or will have icons, like, for instance, you need to have 3 swords to hit this monster or something along those lines. But Madara's big grab, at least to me, is the fact that their dice utilize both numbers and icons on the faces of the die to tell you how well you hit, and the icons may indicate that you have special effects based on the kind of items you're holding. So this turns battles into these great, wonderful dances of sheer tactical strategy coupled with random explosions of what the heck, holy crap power. It's an effective and it's a really cool system, and it fits the theme of the game really well. Now, Madara's main storyline and the whole price tag kind of makes it a commitment, like a lot of campaign games, but Act 1 also comes with a lot of little one-off adventures, so you can have little dungeon crawl, just I want to take on this particular scenario without having to go through the entire campaign. But the quality of the game and its components really make it all worth it, and I really love the battles, being able to chuck the different kinds of dice and then finding out that your characters have upgraded to another level of dice, which is even better.
Now, this one, I know you rave about this one. You said it's how long? How long was this game is?
90 hours of narrative.
Oh,
but
like
you can
a 90-hour game. Holy crap! But how long does a single game usually
a single
take?
scenario, probably about 1.5 to 2 hours.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
No.
The hard part is actually just learning learning it and customizing your character, really.
And this is not a family friendly game. The narration, there's language used and things like that.
Yeah.
They're definitely being a little edgy in this.
Yeah.
It's edgy.
It's edgy, but it's fun. It is fun.
Okay.
Oh, it's my turn?
It's your
It
turn.
is.
It is your turn, yes.
Why do I do that every time? I do that.
I don't know.
Okay,
You're gonna have to put like a little glowing arrow over people's heads.
Yeah. Greg, it's your turn. Okay, so my number 2 is an AEG game that's a little less known game, I think, and that's Dice City.
Yeah, this is it's an older game, I think.
Yeah. But this one is you're rolling dice. You have a grid of cards on. Well, you have a board actually that has a grid of locations, and you're drafting dice. No, you're rolling the dice.
You're rolling your 5
you're
dice.
rolling your
Everybody
5 dice,
gets 5
and you're putting them
colors.
in the slots that they go to, because each dice has a different row and column it actually goes to.
Right.
So, and you're going to be able to do the action that the dice lands on, basically. But there are spots in there that are going to allow you to manipulate that dice to be able to place it someplace else. You're getting kind of like recruitment points, I guess you would call it, to be able to buy cards to replace locations on your board, so you can make location a little better.
It's not recruit. You're gaining production. It's production resources to buy.
Yeah.
Okay. You're producing different things
to get cards
to put into your city.
Replace that you're going to replace your buildings in your city to do different things and a little more powerful things. Plus, you're going to be able to ship items if you get those actions taken care of, or you can fight people, and fighting the enemies that are coming in are how you get points.
It's one of the many ways,
So, but it's another dice manipulation game, because there's plenty of spots on your board that you can manipulate. So, like, say if I put it there, I can change this dice to this, and now it can come down here, and that's going to give me 5 white. What is it? It's like sheep or something like that.
I don't remember what the difference. I remember it was wood and stone, but I don't remember what the other one was. But that's just it. You can't choose where to put your dice. If you rolled a 1 on your white die, it's going on the white 1 spot.
There are spots on the board that if you put your dice, it lands on that one. You can it allows you to move other dice to other areas on your board.
Right.
But building up, you can't. I don't know. Have you won this game? I don't know if you won this game.
If I know, I doubt it.
I think this is one of the games that you can't seem to get a hold of.
They make perfect sense. It is a very simple game.
It is a very simple game, but it has a lot of strategy of how you're going to build your board. It's one of those games that if you play the long game, somebody else can play the short game and win. Yes.
And I am one of those players that I always play the long game. I start building my engine and just let it start rolling, and then by the time I get it up and going, he's already won the game. So
anyway, but another good dice manipulation game where you're improving your board and your actions that you're going to be able to do to be able to get to the points you're going to need to get to win the game. And I seem to be able to do it faster than she can.
You need to work on playing the long game while sabotaging the short game.
I just need to get meaner when I play games, because I don't ever do the take that stuff. I just ignore the take that stuff, and I obviously need to stop doing that. I'm never going to win a game until I do.
But that is Dice City, a little less known game, but I really like it.
Cool. All right, well, my number 2 will be short and simple. The Reckoners. So,
yay!
We've already talked about this one in the number 5 slot. This is, again, dice drafting, dice act. Everything Mark said. It is a fantastic game. I really love how we found this one. We sat down because they needed 2 extra people for a demo at Gen Con, and by the time we got through the first round, I was literally handing the guy my credit card. Because we just enjoyed it that much. Yeah, literally. Like over my shoulder going, here, I'll take your last copy.
Your last deluxe copy.
The last deluxe copy.
Yep.
So, absolutely love this game. It is a larger game and takes up a lot of table space, so it doesn't come out as often as it could.
And it's a lot more fun with more than 2
players. It is more fun with more
Mm-hmm.
than 2 players.
Yeah.
I will agree there. The more heads you have thinking about what you're going to do, but I like the fact it scales well.
Yes, it does.
So for 2 players, you've got 3 locations. For 3, you have 4. For 4, you have 5. It just grows with the number of players, and I like the fact that it does have that scalability. So you're not fighting as many minions. That being said, Steelheart is just as dangerous at 2 as he is at 5. So you don't get any break there. So I really love this one.
Spoilers, this is not in my top 5.
But we could have had a 4-way crossover. Change your number 1.
Nope. This is actually number 8.
Oh, well, so at least it hit the honorable
It
mention.
was in the top 10.
Okay. All right. I guess we'll
Okay.
take that. All right, so my number 1, we'll move on because, like I said, I can't explain it any better. My number 1 is a throwback to the game that got us started in the hobby in the first place. Now, Pandemic has no dice. However, Pandemic the Cure is the dice version of it. This is my favorite dice rolling game. I love pulling this guy out. He's super simple. He doesn't take a lot of space on the table.
No.
This is again a cooperative. I think all but one of mine have been cooperative. In fact, it's amazing how dice games.
You're
a lot of them are
cooperative.
cooperative.
I'm dice manipulating.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right. So this one, cooperative hand management. Point-to-point movement based on the dice rolls. Definitely a push your luck aspect in this one because, again, you're re-rolling dice. You have that option to re-roll some of your dice a little bit. As I said, this is a dice-based version of the full game of Pandemic. The game is completely loaded down with unique dice. The base game comes, I believe, with 6 or 7 rolls. I don't remember how many came in the base game versus the expansion. I think now we have like 11 rolls for this game. And each roll has variable player powers. Everybody has a card that looks like a little ID tag, but every roll has the variable player powers and a unique set of 7 dice. So every round you're rolling your dice, and what comes up on the dice dictates your actions. Now, some of them allow you to move. There are airplane symbols that let you fly anywhere on the board. And mind you, the board, when we back up to that, the board is literally 6 discs that are set out on the table, 1 for each pip on the die. So you got 1 through 6. Each one represents a different region of the world. And in the center, you have a ring that tracks your outbreaks and your infection rate. So you can tell how many outbreaks. Again, same thing. You get so many outbreaks, you lose the game automatically. And the infection rate dictates how many dice you're pulling out of the bag and placing onto each of the regions at the end of every round, at the end of every person's turn. So how this one essentially plays, players roll all their unique dice to determine the actions that are available to them. Each set of dice have similar actions on it, such as flying in between the different locations or being able to sail to just the location next to them. You can treat diseases in the location you're currently at by spending, I believe, it's little syringe icons. You can collect samples for further study. There's little bottle icons that you take the die, the die with that icon on it, and you can collect 1 colored die off of the location, and you literally set it aside and hold it. Each of the diseases is represented by a color, just as in the base game. So you have your 4 different disease colors in the game. And each round, at the end of everybody's turn, you are pulling so many of those colored dice out of a bag, rolling them, and then putting them onto the locations based on the pip that's rolled. So, but yeah, so again, if too many outbreaks happen, too many people get infected, or the infection rate gets too high, then you lose the game. Simple as that. But as with the base game, the only way to win is to discover all 4 cures. The way you discover cures is... Okay, so you know how I said when you're taking samples, you're setting all those dice aside. When one player has at the end of your turn, you can take all of 1 color you have set aside and roll them. And as long as you get a specific number, and I think it's 14, so you have to have at least 3 dice or you're not making 14.
Right.
As long as you can hit that 14, then that is cured. If it's not, then you set all those dice back aside and you wait till your next turn. So it's more advantageous, and you can even, if I know Greg is collecting red, I can take my treatment die or my research die, put it on one of the red dice I take off of that 6 location, give it to Greg, but until he rolls that 14, I don't ever get my dice back. He locks up my dice until that cure is found.
Oh, blame me.
Yes, it's totally his fault. So it adds that you want to get the cures, but at the same time, every time you set aside a die for that cure, somebody's losing one of their dice. So somebody's losing an action. So yeah, one of my favorites.
Okay.
Again, Pandemic, the Cure.
Yeah, well, I like this one.
Yeah, I really. It's actually one of my favorite Pandemic games, and obviously I like the system. But this one is just so quick and easy to get out. It takes 30 minutes to play.
Yep.
We've actually played this. It's supposed to be a 2 to 5. We had one night, we had 2 couples here, and they wanted to learn the system. So it's like, well, if we're going to play a Pandemic game, let's pull this one out, because at least we can kind of fudge it a little bit. It's a little easier to fudge. And we still lost. But that's beside the point. So we had a good time with it. So
It was my number 10.
is it? See, it's on there too.
Okay, so my number 1 is Coimbra.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one, it's not really a dice manipulating game, though.
No.
But it's going to have a certain amount of dice rolled. You don't know what it is till you pull them out of the bag. You roll them, you draft them, and now you're going to use the dice to draft cards with.
Yeah, it's a dice
And
drafting.
so there's like 4 different cities that you're going to
Worker
put it
placement.
in, or you could put it
Yeah.
up in the castle area to get special powers for that round.
Yeah.
You're going to use your dice to buy a card, and you've got to pay that much money in that.
It's either money or
Knights.
soldiers.
Soldiers or yeah,
yeah.
depending on what card
the
you're
card
buying.
is,
in
yeah.
that. So like if I'm going to place this, say I'm going to place this 5 in the last city down here because I won't be able to. I want to go first to be able to get this card that I want, because each card's going to do a different thing. It's either going to let you go up on tracks, it's going to give you a special bonus for something, or what have you throughout the game. But say like Katy plays a 5 in the same area, her 5 now it's got to go behind my 5, so I'm still first. The only way she can get it is if she gets a 6, or if she had a special power from the castle that allows you to bump your dice
Bump
up,
the dice up, yeah.
which is a little bit of dice manipulation.
Yeah.
So
So, well,
But,
yeah, you're drafting those dice, and you want the high-powered ones, but those high-powered ones
they're going
cost
to
a lot
cost
of money.
you a lot, and you've got to have it because
So.
at the end of the round you're going to be moving up tracks depending on the card that you drafted, and that card's going to tell you where to move up, how much you're going to move up on the track, and it's going to give you a power saying you can do this or do that.
And there's points based on those tracks are points at the end of the game.
Right, yeah. So you're moving up these tracks, and the more higher you get up on the tracks is like more soldiers you're going to get each round, more money you're going to get on each round.
Influence,
There's like
more
4 or
movement.
5, yeah.
There's one that's movement among the cities. Yeah, there's a lot going on in this one. It's a mid-weight game. It's not a heavy game.
No, it's not a heavy game at all.
But yeah, it's a good one. I like
But
the
it's
placement on this one.
it's a really cool, and it's not real. I mean, it's colorful. It's got a lot of green and orange in it.
No, it's a neat dice drafting worker placement where your dice
Correct.
are
Your
your
dice
workers.
are your workers.
But again, you're paying for those dice.
Yeah,
each
and
round,
I don't believe there's a
so-
lot of luck. I mean, the only luck is what dice is rolled, and like I said, and there are ways to manipulate to get around that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is Coimbra, and it's kind of another dice manipulation game. So I guess you like to help people with your games, and I like to manipulate people with my games. So that says a whole lot about us. So
It does.
Red flag.
right, I'm a manipulator. Anyway, so yes, my number 1 is Coimbra.
All right. My number 1 is Destinies by Lucky Duck Games. Now, with everything that comes with this game, the well-refined app-driven component, the narratives, the plastic minis, the fog of war that gives the game kind of a 4X feel, you would think the dice in Destinies would seem to fall to the back burner. But the way the dice rolls are handled is so wonderfully done that it draws them right to the surface, in my opinion. You always have 2 main dice for any checks and combats you might get into, but you can choose to use and expend up to 3 effort dice if you have them available. Once they're expended, however, you have to have them refreshed before you can use them again. Using them in conjunction with the skill checks is where the game really just shines and works so wonderfully. The player boards for your characters have 3 attributes. You'll start out with games with wooden tokens in certain areas of those certain spots of those boards for each attribute, ranging from 1 to 12. When you're called upon to make a skill check based on an attribute, you'll roll and you'll total your dice, including any effort dice that you use or any cards that help nudge that up, and you'll tell the app how many successes you have. You never know how many successes are going to be required for something like that. The app keeps that all under wraps. But you basically say, hey, I've rolled an 8, which means that I've met or exceeded 3 wooden tokens, so that means I have 3 successes. And it works really, really deftly with the experience system. Certain tests and certain events will cause you to move these tokens up and down, and you can sit there and decide, do I want to start with the ones on the very end so it doesn't take me quite as much to get more successes? Do I want to start with the ones on the lower end so every test I get I can be assured of 1 success at least? You also gain cards throughout the game that can be used to mitigate your dice rolls if you choose to use them. Like, for instance, you may have a crowbar, let's say, that gives you a +3 on a power check. Well, you can expend that card, and that card is no longer available to you, so you get your +3 on your power check. But where are you going to be when you need a crowbar now? So the whole system works together so wonderfully and makes such a cool game. It makes an immersive but really enjoyable kind of casual weight competitive adventure game where everything really comes together and makes for a very engaging experience. Now, usually these type of games I actually prefer cooperative more. Destiny's is one of the few that I don't mind that nearly so much.
Yeah, a lot of people talk a lot of good about this game, and it's one I've thought about. It's like, maybe I need to play this.
Yeah, no, I think it's very worthwhile, and it doesn't quite have the think of what the person was thinking when they created the scenario, solve it, that you find with Chronicles of Crime. It's
Right.
more of a straight, okay, in order for me to fulfill my destiny, I have to look at getting these particular items. So I need to look around, see what I can do to find these items.
Yep.
Okay.
So, sounds like something I'd really play.
We do.
Back the expansion that should be coming out.
Yep.
So,
We've got
more stories.
Yep.
My number 1 is Role Player. So I wasn't certain if I should cover the original Role Player or Role Player Adventures, but I decided to go with the original. It's more affordable, and without the story aspects of Adventures, it showcases the dice and cards aspect of the game. With this, you are legitimately building a hero. You're creating their stats with 3 dice. There are 6 attributes, the old strength, dex, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Different races offer different bonuses or penalties on the overall dice sum. An elf gets a +2 to their dex and a -1 to their cons, and the dwarf gets a +2 to their cons and a -2 to their charisma. Rude. Class cards tell you what total each of your stats needs to be by the end of the game for optimal scoring. Each class has an ability and a class color. There are dice in every class color, and your class can give you certain boons when using those dice in tandem with different cards. Backstory cards have specific requirements for further in-game scoring. These requirements consist of the color and location of certain attribute dice on the character's sheet. During the market phase, you have the opportunity to acquire cards that will give you more opportunities for in-game points. If you play the rogue with the black class die, then acquiring the leather armor cards will give you accumulative end-game points. Certain items, as well as the skills and traits cards, can offer in-game points, but some can also help manipulate dice and dice placement. Using these cards may affect your alignment, which is tracked on another card. Depending on where you are at the end of the game, certain spots on the alignment card will give you points, and some will take away points. There are 2 expansions for this game. Monsters and Minions introduces combat, and it's pretty much perfect. The other expansion is Fiends and Familiars. I really wish I liked this one because the dice are dual colored and so cool looking and there's cute little animal friends, but I just don't. And that's honestly a shame. My number one is Role Player.
Yes, this one's a good one. I've always enjoyed this one.
Yep.
I don't
And
remember
she
enough
hates building role-playing characters.
I do.
Yeah.
But she
you know
loves
this,
the
right?
game, but
Yes.
she doesn't like building the characters
I hate
in the role-playing
in
game.
a role player system. Okay, not the board game. In the actual RPG systems, yes, I love RPGs. I hate building characters. This game, for some reason,
That's almost the best part of an RPG game.
I
building
hate
the
those characters.
character.
I hate it. I hate it. I don't know why. I will reenact. I will revive an old character and just tweak her history to make it work. Doesn't matter.
You've done that plenty of times.
But I love this game. So honorable mentions.
Had a few. I think Jess covered a lot of mine. Runica was one that I
that's a good
considered.
one. We just got our first play of that in a couple weeks ago. That's a good one.
Yeah. Bad Company.
I didn't even think about that one.
Think about that.
Kingsburg.
Yep.
Yep, that one I thought about. Okay.
And surprisingly enough, I mean, there's Sea of Legends and Bard Songs, but those don't feel like the dice are the main thing. Creature Comforts, actually, surprisingly, because a lot of it is kind of almost placing wagers on what will roll. That's actually a really cool mechanism to sit there and go, oh, I think they're going to roll a 6 here, so I'm going to place a person here.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I thought about that one.
I mean, just rolling rights in general.
Yeah.
What'd you have?
I had Castles of Burgundy.
That's another
where your
good one.
dice are your workers.
Yep.
Fantastic Beasts Perilous Pursuit. That's a good one. Where your dice are both working for you and against you at the same time. So, Tekenu.
Yep.
Sagrada and Role Player. So.
And then I had Pandemic's Cure.
Okay.
Marvel Dice Throne.
Okay.
The Reckoners.
All right.
Endangered.
I thought about that one, but I couldn't remember.
Well, the whole game's about the dice and where you're going to be able to place it to be able to
Yeah,
do the
that's true. The
action.
dice are your workers. Okay.
And then Dueling Dice.
Dueling
which
Dice
is
is
a
a good
very
one.
well unknown game.
It's
I
a very
guess you'd say.
unknown, yeah.
A very
Unknown's
well unknown. Well, I guess not a lot of people know about it. We found it last year at Gen Con. So
yeah. All right.
okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, that is our top 5 dice mechanic games. Feel free to like and subscribe, and by all means, give us an indication of what your favorite dice mechanic games are. So that said, this is Mark for the Meeple Society, and for Jess, for Katy, and for Greg, thank you for stopping by.